Now, Alan Kyerematen was born in 1955. A lot of people don't know that Alan, and because last week you asked me about Ashanti region, Dr. Dufour, Kojo Bonsu, Dr. Free, Alan Kyerematen's father was the secretary of the Ashanti-Man Council, right? He was a minister of local government under the NLC.
National Liberation Council.
Yes. So he was he's a sociological anthropologist. So he set up the Kumasi Cultural Center. Now, Alan's father, so a lot of the history is a very highly respected historical writer and sociologist, right? He set up what they call KCC, okay? One of the early, Adisalo College was started in 1910. Alan Kyerematen's father was in that school in the 30s, all right? He was a school prefect. And Alan is his third son. There are 6 kids. So my point is that in terms of Asante aristocracy,
he's there.
His father was the secretary of the Asante-Man Council, right? Which means that these are the people who document. I mean, they were doing productions to depict. And Kumasi is almost like the cultural hotbed of traditional leadership in Ghana. So my point is that, and again, when Alan announced his campaign, he went to Otumfuo to speak to him. He told him, I've come back home. And Otumfuo said, oh, I'll advise everybody. And he gave him advice. But my point is that his being Asante is a very important part of the campaign, even though he's not necessarily pushing that. All right? But if you look at who his dad was, as an MPP, he wasn't an MPP man through and through in that sense. But his father was part of that government that overthrew the people who came after Nkrumah was overthrown, served in that government, written a lot. So my point is that he will be seen as an Asante this year.
So pure UP as well. Exactly.
All right? Interesting, his father is from Patase, his mother is from Ejiso and Elmina. So they say you are from where your mother is from. So he has some claim to
Fanti land.
Fanti. And he does speak Asante, Twi, and Fanti, and actually speaks Ga too.
Okay.
All right? He's a Christian. Again, he's Anglican. And he's at Disadel College. And I'll come back to this because during the rally, Adisco was very strong there.
And they did a support.
Adisco is the second oldest boys' secondary school in Ghana. Indeed, Alan John Kyerematen was named after the headmaster of Adisado College in the 30s, who was an Anglican priest called Sir Alan John Knight, right? That was because Alan Kyerematen's father was the head prefect, and that man was the headmaster. So he named his son after the man. Okay. And Alan went to Adisado from 4125. So Adisado claimed him. Where you go to 4125 is where you are from, all right? And of course, he studied economics at Legon, he studied LLB, and then he went to Minnesota, the US, to do business. And then he started all this Empretech. He worked at Unilever before he rose through the ranks. Later on, went to did some work for the Economic Commission of Africa. Again, the other point about Alan is that the MPP's rating of him. So MPP wins power after many years. He's Ghana's first ambassador under Kufuor to the US. If you become a president, you are choosing your ambassadors: US, UK, China.
Very important.
Right? So, and you can say that about Spio and Rawlings as well. So Alan is ambassador 2001 to 2003. Then he becomes trade minister. Right? He does trade minister for the latter part of the first term. Into the second term, they add private sector development. 2007, then he runs for president. Almost wins because the machine is supporting him. I'll come back to this point because now his people are complaining that the machine is supporting Bawumia. YB yesterday was saying that people have been convinced or forced to vote for Bawumia. It's the same thing they accused his guys of. Be that as it may, his MPP credentials are not in doubt.
So he's never been an MP.
No, but he's been minister for...
So he has been an executive. I think there was presidential special initiatives. He did something like
so
that.
He was, so the ministry was
PSI,
trade,
Cassava.
PSI, there's a long name, private sector development.
You know what's funny with that? Because he did that for Kufuor, and he's doing that for Nanado in the one district, one factory.
In a way.
In a way. So
Alan's main portfolio has been trade, which is why we call him a trade expert. Indeed, in 2012, funny story, John Mahama nominated him for WTO director after Pascal Lamy's tenure. He made the first one. He didn't get into the second round. So Okonjo was in Ghana recently. Now Okonjo's time, they knew it was an African, but Alan's time, we are not sure it was going to go to Africa. But the NDC nominated him
to go
for WTO because of his work. So he actually is a trade guy.
Right? So he's done trade for 6 years for Akufo-Addo,
Yeah.
around 6-7
He's
years
the main
for John
NPP
Kufuor.
trade minister.
And he has been cool there over there. And he has not been a member of parliament. So
Never.
for him to have done so well in the primaries of 2007 and to be there, because usually when you're in, Akufo-Addo has been in parliament, so maybe you can say he has got some politicking happening there. But for you to come from ambassador to become minister, run and be second, and still be relevant in the affairs, it means it's a very big deal.
It was also because the executive supported him. So the Kufuor government machine, DCs, MPs, same accusation that they were whipped in line to support him. Because if you looked at the hierarchy, Edu Boahen, Kufuor, Alan was not next.
He was not on the list at the time.
But somehow, which is why when Akufo-Addo won the first round, there was no need for a second round because all the others said this guy is being favored, right? So in the hierarchical argument of MPP, and again, if you listen to MPP people talk, the first question they ask you is, so how did you come into the party? Who's your father? It's a very important part of that tradition.
And you've explained his father to us, a true and true Kumasi or Asante person.
Yes.
And then that flows, the bloodline is there for him.